Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are looking forward to an opening day that looks like this over my shoulder, Dennis Koulatsos. He joins us from Coons Ford Security Boulevard. He'll be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home, driving you everywhere. The Terps are driving some people crazy in the aftermath of Monday night. Those who jumped on the bandwagon. I see you're almost wearing Terps colors there. You almost
I
look like
am. I'm
you're
rocking them.
understudy to Mr. Turgeon there, Coach Turgeon.
I am. Look, it wouldn't be a bad place to be. Hey, they were 10 seed going up against a 2 seed, and the disparity between the talent on both teams was evident. Alabama just had a night, right? They ran them off the court. The back court play was stellar. 41 points from the starting two guards. Shackelford and Petty was just too much for the Terps to overcome. They pushed the pace, and the Terps just couldn't keep up. And that's the game.
Well, I mean, when you're raining threes like that, I mean, that was like something right out of the Golden State playbook, right? Like,
Yeah.
you wonder what these kids are learning. They're learning how to shoot the ball like a Harlem Globetrotter, right? Like, all of these guys can shoot. And on a night when they shoot well, you're going to lose, especially when, the goal is 33 pointers. You go making 20 of them, you're going to win.
Well, they missed a three-pointer there right around halftime, and the one kid went up and slammed the ball with one hand for Alabama. So you knew the Terps were going to have a very difficult time coming back in the second half. Eric Ayala got off to a hot start and faded. And I said since day one before the season began that they would go as Ayala would go. And when he shows up, when he scores 20-plus points, they have a tendency to win. And when he scores a lot less than that, they have a tendency to lose. So they've gone as far as their starting point guard can push them. And look, they showed up, but they were just overmatched, plain and simple.
What are the expectations for the Maryland program in this way? Big Ten, big money to go, right? That Michigan and Ohio State are going to come in and clean their clock in football every year for a while. That hasn't changed. You think of Maryland as a basketball school. Maybe it's a lacrosse or a soccer school now. I'm not sure. But you think of it as a basketball school. And yet Turgeon's been here 10 years. And as I said to Luke, and I'm not the anti-Turgeon guy. Look through my Twitter. I'm not the fired Turgeon guy. But, 10 years into this, he's always felt like he's been rented, right? I mean, it felt like Gary's program. It's never felt like Mark Turgeon's program. It feels like the fans have never fully embraced him. He's been here a decade. He's got 2 years left on the deal. Seriously, Dennis, think about this. You've watched a lot of Maryland basketball. You and I've talked a lot of Maryland basketball over the last decade, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Name the moment. Every Oriole fan would give you Delman Young, right? Or, with the Ravens, there's so many we can't even – I would mention the snow game against the Vikings as far as having a good time. But just memories of the Ravens of big victories, big losses, all of that. I can't think of one big Terps win. I can't think of one big Terps loss. This is the most fresh loss. It was a very obvious loss. I mean, they if they played 10 times, the Terps would lose 9 of them, right? The only night they wouldn't lose would be the night the other team doesn't shoot well. And yet we're expecting them to be a basketball program. The money is on the basketball side, yet nobody really thinks they're going to win a national championship.
No, there's definitely an undercurrent at College Park, a fire Mark Turgeon movement. And let's face it, he faced some of the biggest shoes anybody possibly could. Gary Williams was a legend at Maryland national championship, and no better X to those coach than Gary. Now, Mark's trump card is he can recruit players, and it's up to him and the assistant coaches to coach those players up. But that's his calling card. If he could just coach as well as Gary. But in all fairness, not many people were capable or are capable of coaching as well as Gary Williams. Roy Williams one time went on record as saying that, after a loss to the Terps, when he was with Carolina, that Gary threw stuff at him he'd never seen before. So I think that's part of the argument is in terms of Turgeon. I like him. I think he's a good coach, not a great coach, certainly a great recruiter. But to your point, there hasn't been that moment that the Terps have captured under his watch, and that's telling.
Well, and I think it's telling when they go to sell tickets and when they go to sell enthusiasm, and when next year rolls around and say, what did you do last year? Well, we didn't make the Sweet 16 again. And that's not just for everybody running around with a turtle jersey on, or whatever. That's for the next group of kids that would come and play. And the Big Ten was up until the game started in March, and they started to count, right? And then it hasn't looked so good for the Big Ten the last 5-6 days, right? I just wonder where the future for the program is when they do have to ramp it back up and start selling tickets off of campus, and getting people to believe, and then getting kids and their parents to believe, to send their kids there to play. And I know they got some Baltimore kids coming in. I mean, that's one thing for sure. There's a Baltimore pipeline to open up that, I don't know, Beano or Durgin or whatever it is, the state school, it should always been there, right? But there has been something nice about seeing Sticks and Morcell and local kids, and even seeing Keith Booth on television last week.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and maybe with Coach Loxley there being able to attract some local players on the football side, maybe they can get some synergy going between the programs and make Maryland once again the destination school. Back in the day, there was nothing like Terps basketball, right? And Saturday night we were watching the Terps beat up in Connecticut. We had a spirited conversation in my showroom with my staff in terms of who's the best NBA player, who had the best NBA career that came out of Maryland. So there were a lot of difference of opinions there in terms of who the best was. So that's what the conversation gravitated to. And some of the guys were like, "Boy, you've been watching Maryland for a long, long time." And I said, "Look, when I was a teenager, we all pretended we were Buck Williams or Albert King, and that's who we channeled when out on those courts without nets in Essex."
Even though Tony Massenberg didn't have a bad NBA career, right?
He did not, no.
Yeah.
But Buck Williams was my go-to guy, so I had to Google it afterwards, and the consensus seems that Buck Williams was the best, had the best NBA career out of anyone to ever come out of College Park.
Okay, well, I'm not going to argue that. I mean, there were Kings and there were Bucks and there, all sorts of. I mean, John Lucas, all sorts of guys.
Steve Francis was there.
Tom McMillan had a good career. It just wasn't all on the court,
Correct,
right? He had some
correct.
stuff happening off the court. Dennis Koulatsos is here, Coons Ford Security Boulevard. All right, so let's get out of Turtle Land. I know you don't want to talk about the baseball team, even though next week's opening day. I'll deal with you on that next
on
week.
My birthday, April 1st, right? They open up on April Fool's Day, so it's very appropriate. I should probably buy a ticket and go.
How much trouble did you get when you were a kid being born on April Fool's Day? Did you get
Well, in Greece, April Fool's is akin to what Halloween is here. It's a big, big holiday. People play a lot of tricks on each other. I was about a month early, so my dad, God rest his soul, he called everyone and said, "Hey, my mother had twins." So of course nobody believed him. My grandmother came, my maternal grandmother came to the hospital the day after I was born, on April 2nd, because back then you just didn't have the baby and go home right away like you do today. They kept you for a couple of days. So it was on April 2nd that she announced to the world that I was in fact born on April 1st.
Nice. Well, you could have claimed the second if you would have wished to, I guess. But then it's a better story when you're born on April 1st. And so,
correct.
Happy birthday in advance next week. That will be a day of watching the Orioles play at Fenway Park. They come home the following week on the 8th. We're going to sort of bring the band together for baseball next week. I'm going to do a lot of baseball programming in advance of opening day. But I want to talk football with you. The wide receiver situation for the Ravens, and I know I talked about this on your show on Thursday. Where do you assess 2 months worth of we need a wide receiver, we need a wide receiver? Quite frankly, there was probably 4 months on the field, right? September, October, November, December, where every week we say, well, we just had a wide receiver. It doesn't come all because you lose a playoff game. Where is the mindset for them? And also for the wide receivers, because to Luke's point, no one's taking a 1-year sandwich deal here thinking they're going to pad their stats and go out and get paid. This is not the job you take. And as much as we talk about the business of football and Orlando Brown, this is a tough spot to recruit wide receivers, as we pointed out in January, even though it was poo-pooed.
Yeah, you make a great point there, you and Luke. But I think what's missing here, what these receivers, potential receivers coming to Baltimore are missing is if they can figure it out, if they can develop some chemistry with Lamar Jackson, they would be absolutely revered and adored in this town. Case in point is Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Now, he wanted to go back to Pittsburgh, and that's obvious, but had Juju come to Baltimore, had a great season with the Ravens. We love how tough he is, how much he loves blocking, big physical receiver. And next year, when the salary cap is much higher and they're able to extend him, had he come to Baltimore and maybe caught 75, 80 balls and 10 touchdowns. I mean, everybody would
Where's he
buy.
getting 75 or 80 balls in this offense? I mean, you
They
come
have to.
on.
They
I
have
go
to.
back and forth with
Nest.
Luke with this.
They have to open it up at some point. They shouldn't be hell bent when they rush for 200 yards in the first half and have a 3 touchdown lead. They should work on their passing in the second half. They have enough of a defense, but my point is, instead of setting records, they got to open up the offense. They've got to be able to get more balance, so that way, if they happen to fall behind or if the other team dares them to throw the ball, they have to be able to respond to that challenge.
Dennis,
Now,
this isn't Nestor. This is Juju Smith-Schuster and his agent saying, Eric, I'm going to catch 75 balls in your offense. Where are they coming from? Like,
they
you
have
know what I
to.
mean? Like, and they can say, well, we're going to evolve, and Juju's going to be like, I'm going to stay with the, what I know, right? Like, and that kid thinks he's going to have a statue in Pittsburgh one day, right? You know what I mean? So I
Maybe.
think there's a little bit of that going on. Unlike Orlando Brown, who realizes he's not getting a statue here. They didn't give Ogden one, did they? Or does Ogden have one now?
Does not have one last time I checked, but now they're talking to
How
Sammy
can John
Watkins.
Ogden not have a statue in this town? Hold on, that's another.
Not yet, maybe. There's only
When
so
I
many
own the
statues.
Ravens, Jo, you'll have a statue.
Look,
It'll
look,
be a
there,
big
there,
one
there
too.
you go, there you go. Him and then Reed, but with receivers now they're talking to Sammy Watkins, and the danger is to overpay the wrong player, right? Sammy hasn't been available always. He's been oft injured, so you got to be careful not to spend too much money on a receiver that may miss half a dozen games in the year. So look, if I'm them, I get a big tight end, a move tight end in the draft. There's a half a dozen of them available between the first and the third and fourth round. I get myself a receiver relatively high in the draft, and I try to develop them along with the players that I have. I try to play big ball football just like Bill Belichick's going to do this year with his 2 tight ends that he signed in the free agent market. But there's different ways to skin the cat. At some point, though, this offense has to progress via the air because teams are going to play him just like the Bills played him in the last postseason. They're going to take away the run. They're going to make them throw the ball. And when somebody makes you throw the ball, you've got to be able to answer the bell. It's that simple, and you need the personnel. But my biggest fear now is that they knee jerk, they panic, they give Sammy Watkins, a 1 year at 8 to 10 million, which to me it's absurd. But I hope they don't have to overpay that receiver. It's okay to overpay a receiver, just make sure it's the right one.
Dennis Koulatsos will be heard here on Thursday as well as Sunday morning with the D Koulatsos Show. Now the way to find him out on Twitter and the Sunday Sports Voice as well. I agree with you in the sentiment of the tight end thing. To me, that's really what you want anyway. You want a blocker out there or someone that feigns blocking 95% of the time. You want someone that has good hands. You want someone that can create a mismatch, maybe not against a cornerback, but against most safeties and certainly against every linebacker, you would have that ability. That's the part about giving Hayden Hurst away. It's fine now. You go back and say we got Dobbins, and I'll hear all that. I just think the tight end may be the answer here. And I keep going back to this, and I know I brought this up last week. They used a one on Hollywood Brown 2 years ago, right? They used a pick on Devin Duvernay. They've made picks. They ostensibly search 4 months for the wide receivers they like, and they pick them on the third weekend of April, right? At some point, they have draft picks too, and at some point, I'm not the guy that's going to say we're just going to quit on drafting wide receivers around here. I think that's kind of absurd too.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. They don't need a whole lot. That's what a lot of people don't understand. This is a very good team. They didn't get a ton of production from Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. They did re-sign Tyus Bowser. They're certainly going to draft an edge rusher high, day one or day two, maybe a safety. This team just doesn't have that many holes. They address the offensive line with the signing of Kevin Zeitler, 46% of what Kansas City paid Joe Thuney. They're making some good moves, but as sexy as the first round of free agency is, when all that big money gets thrown around, that's not the Ravens' way. We know that. They're not that far away. They're one or two key pieces away. Keep everybody healthy. They've got some guys coming back from injury. Nick Boyle and Ronnie Stanley and Tavon Young. This team isn't that far away. They've got to be able to hit on the receiver or tight end. And like you said, Nestor, you just can't stop trying because you haven't been that successful in the past. You got to keep going to the well, and eventually you're going to hit on a receiver and a tight end.
I've known Eric DeCosta a long time. I think he would be obsessed with drafting the right wide receiver at some point. Obsessed with, we're going to get this right. We're going to do it inside the organization. We're going to find the right player and this all. And I think instead of giving some 30-year-old guy $10 million a year, I'm still of the mindset that what you really want is to draft two Willie Sneads. You want to draft wide receivers in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round who are going to be your kind of wide receiver. In the same way that when you say we're going to take offensive linemen, we're not taking the same offensive linemen that are going to be protecting Matt Ryan on the blind side. We're going to be taking offensive linemen that are going to road grade and are going to run the football. So to me, what they're looking for in physical and wide receiver, they should be able to find that in the draft. They really should be at a dramatic discount against paying some guy who wants to catch 120 balls and telling him he's going to catch 70. And then in reality, when he gets into the offense and maybe gets hurt or whatever, he catches 34, right? Like the Jeremy Maclin role or whatever, Mike Wallace, whatever, who wasn't a bad receiver, right? But never as advertised, any of those. And certainly not in this offense. I mean, that was with Flacco flinging it around. This is different.
It's very different, and look, they have to keep, to your point, they have to keep Lamar Jackson upright. And that's the challenge, is finding offensive linemen that can do both run block as well as pass block, because when Lamar's got to be confident in that offensive line to be able to set his feet on 2nd and long and 3rd and long and go through his progressions and properly scan the field. So I think they're on the right track. They're very smart. I have all the confidence in the world in their front office and Eric DeCosta. And again, people have to just relax, because there's a long way to go between now and September when they open things up with opening kickoff. So trust your organization, trust the process. This is a playoff caliber team. It's not that far away. They know that they're very close, and people will be surprised with some of the cuts due to the cap here in the upcoming weeks. So just be patient. Maybe we get a Carlos Dunlap. Maybe we get a Malik Hooker on a $2 million deal. There's going to be great value out there. It's still there. So don't panic. Just be patient.
And if it doesn't work out, we can always hire Domata Pecco, because he comes back every December, right?
He's always in shape when he's not coaching high school football. He's out there running around with those kids. So look, he did well when we brought him back. But a lot of draft picks out there. They always do a great job. And this will also, every draft is critical, but this is also going to be another defining draft for Eric DeCosta, and he'll be up to the challenge. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Dennis Koulatsos will be up for the challenge on Thursday. Also at a Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. He'll be here 3 until 5. Then again on Sunday morning. Give him a little primer for springtime. I know we're pushing 80 degrees this weekend in the old Charm City Den. Time to get out and get the rag top out, huh?
Yeah, there's energy from the customer base. There's pent-up demand. There's energy for the new vehicles that we have, such as the Bronco, the Mach-E, the brand new award-winning F-150. So business is tremendous. We do a lot of repeat and referral business, as does WNST. We rely on the word-of-mouth advertising and all the great stuff that WNST provides as well. So business is booming at Coons Baltimore Ford. New, pre-owned, pre-loved, the service department, collision center. We're a one-stop shop, and again, very grateful to our customer base in the greater Baltimore metropolitan area.
Make sure you're tuning in on Thursday between 3 and 5. I'll be on in the 4 o'clock hour, as I am every single week, getting ready for a non-Terps March Madness weekend and the final weekend before Gimme an O. We used to say that on the bus line on the way out there, right, to 22 from Highlandtown. Dennis Koulatsos joins us. He will join us again on Thursday and again next week as we get ready for baseball and the NFL draft. And who knows, maybe Eric DeCosta will sign a wide receiver. And if he does, you'll get it first on the WNST text service, all brought to you by Coons Ford Security Boulevard. I am Nestor. Very easy to find me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere you are. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.